Oh, no.
All right, so welcome to the first Math and Computer Science Club event. We're going to be doing an internship and REU experience presentation. Our officers for this year, I'm the president, Brian Valencia, and that's my email. Do you guys want to introduce yourself here?
Sure.
I'm the treasurer, René Alvarez.
I don't know if they can see you. Hi, I'm Julian Fisher. I'm the secretary.
There you go.
Hey, I'm the secretary, Mr. President. You guys can come on up here.
I'm the treasurer.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and I'm the VP, so hey. Yeah, there you go.
Here, I'm going to move this over just so when we present,
Okay.
we have.
Keep going, bud.
Okay. So for resumes, when you make your resume, you're going to want to split it up into like major sections. So common ones are like work experience, projects, education, and club involvement. In general, if you do have relevant work experience and like technical projects that you've worked on, you would want to put those first because it'll show whoever's looking over your resume like what experience you have and with what technologies. And when you list out your resume, you're going to want to make sure that you focus on accomplishments or tangible work that you've done. So for example, if you've had a job, you're going to want to talk about what you did at the job and maybe the technologies that you used. And if you have an officer position, you would want to talk about what your duties were and like how you fulfilled them. With that being said, you don't have to use that structure and you want to make sure that you're leaning into your strengths. So you always like just want to make yourself look as good as possible. If you don't have a lot of work experience, you should not put that at the top. But if you have like, if you've done well in school and you're involved in a lot of clubs, you would want to put that towards the top. If you have a GitHub, it's a great idea to put it on your resume so anybody who's looking it over can see the work that you've done, even if it's just like school projects or personal projects would be good too, if you have those to put them on there. And since we're all coming out of undergraduate, I've heard that your resume should only be like 2 pages max, but since we're all coming out of undergraduate, it should probably only be 1 page because we don't have that much stuff. So when you go to build your own resume, honestly, the hardest part is just getting started. So, but like once you fill out like your major sections, everything just falls into place, you know, like what you've done. So my biggest advice would be to just get started. And if you feel like you need more substance in your resume, once you've started it, one thing you could always do is work on projects. So that could be a small project like over a weekend or a week on your own, or you could get together with friends over like a month or semester and do like a bigger project, maybe even on GitHub and mess with like managing your repository. Another option is to get involved, obviously, with like research experiences and internships. But we also do hackathons in the club, so that's a good opportunity as well to like build an application with some friends. And then also me and Ian are going to throw our resumes into the Discord, so you can use those as guides if you need to. And once you've completed your resume, you can feel free to email it to anyone on the officer team or me, and we'll review it for you and send it back. Our emails are on the second slide of this presentation, which we will also put in the Discord. There we go.
Hi, I'm Jaylee, by the way. I'm going to be talking a little bit about research experience for undergraduates, also known as an REU. These are summer programs that happen at other universities. So, like, you know, you don't have to go to this school to go to the research program. It's open to anyone that qualifies, and they're funded by the NSF, which is the National Science Foundation. Usually it's founded by them. And there are multiple different topics and majors. It's usually STEM focused, so you might see some chemistry, you know, biology, but of course for us, we're looking more at the math and computer science, but there's so many different, I'll pull up some examples, but there's like data analytics, like machine learning, all of that. So why would you want to do this? Some benefits may include a stipend, so they will give you some money for your time, and they'll also provide you with housing. You might stay in their dorms or at a nearby apartment, stuff like that. And you might include money for food and transportation to the research site. So eligibility, when I was looking, most of them required you to be a US resident. And in Missouri, I know that WashU is one that doesn't require that, but you just have to do your own like looking into that if you are an international. You have to be in your undergraduate. You have to have your summer free. Most of them run from like May to July, so it's a long program and they want you to be there like the whole time. So to look for these, you can go to nsf.gov REU sites, and I included a link, so I'll go ahead and go to that. This is for the computer science one, but there's different categories. This is just the one I clicked on. So you can see all of these universities that have programs, and these are the keywords for it, what they're kind of be focused on. And if it sounds interesting to you, then you can go ahead and click on through and you can find their application. So, and it'll tell you about it. Some of them have still been online. Is this presented? Yeah, some of them have been virtual, but I think we're starting to get still more into the in-person ones. And the applications vary. Some of them include like a letter of recommendation, projects that you've worked on before. And so you'll pretty much need similar to a resume for that. So we have someone that did an REU this summer to present. So I welcome Lizzie.
You just put like the entire presentation on there.
Yeah, just there's a link to it.
How do I do
I've
this?
already pulled it up. It'll be on there.
Oh, I have to click this.
Yeah.
I got you. How do I make this present?
It's
Control
on the-
F5.
Wait, what?
Control F5.
I didn't do anything.
Well,
There's a present button in the top right, like where your webcam is.
I like,
It's like to the
Don't
left of
use.
that. Yeah, there you go.
how do I use this? Okay, so my name's Lizzie. I did an REU through East Carolina University, which is in North Carolina. It was a 10-week program. The like advertisement went through someone through jury, and I was like, well, this has a very high stipend. It was like $6,000 on the thing, and I was like, I want that much money. And it said it would be good if you knew a bunch of things about computer science, but you don't necessarily have to. And so I was like, let's wing it, let's try it. I needed 2 letters of recommendation, I think, from teachers or professors. And then I think I included my resume on it, which was about a page. And I basically threw everything that I know about computer science and all the programs that I use onto it. And then just your basic stuff that you put on resumes. Ours was, I don't actually know what ours was, I'm gonna be real. It was computer sciencey, I know that much, but then the topic that I ended up coming up with was machine learning and architecture with an emphasis on data centers. Because I'm a double major, kind of, more architecture, but double majoring kind of. I definitely wanted to keep architecture in the loop with the research that I was doing. And then my mentor at ECU wanted me to focus on more computer science things. So then I tied data centers into it because that's a computer sciencey thing. So we did that. This was my 15-minute presentation that's not going to go 15 minutes because no one wants to hear that. But this was just kind of the intro for it. And I talked about what machine learning was, what architecture was, and why I thought it was important to put them together. And so it was mostly focusing on building design of data centers and the fact that they are huge energy consumers. And they also produce a lot of heat waste, which is terrible for the environment. So then I asked about 6 questions. People go back and look at this if they care. And I kind of defined what aspects of architecture we looked at with machine learning. I talked about the big 4 issues that we've got with data centers. And then we had to do a literature review and then a final paper and then a report. And so these were the 6 big things that I focused on in my lit review. I also had to include machine learning because they weren't going to let you get away without doing some sort of research aspect. And I was a little bit behind in my REU. So that took a while, but in the last 2 weeks, I was able to use IBM's Auto AI and kind of run a data set similar to things that I am planning on using this fall. So for the analytics, I just kind of overviewed how I put all the information into Auto AI. This is kind of what it gave me, and it was telling me that these 4, what are they called? Leaves, branches, were like the primary ways for me to collect and run through my data for the machine to learn it best. So this compared the algorithm accuracy to see, which one is the best one to use. And they were all about the same. And then we did some batch testing just to kind of see how stable overall IBM's Auto AI tested the data set that I gave it. So this semester, the plan was to use a mix of juries, data sets of buildings on campus. Hello. As well as the data center in Springfield, which is Bluebird Underground. I think that's the new name for it. It used to be like SpringNet, I think. And I was going to compare their electric usage as well as see if they recorded their heat waste, run it through Auto AI using the time series so I could date everything, and then see if there was any way to better the current electric use, maybe have a building that can give more electricity so they're not consuming and creating as much, or something to do with heat waste, even though that's really hard because we're in the Midwest. So that's kind of thinking a little far-fetched. But this is kind of the timeline that I gave them. You do a lot of research. It was in Eastern time, so my hours were 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, and we got like an hour and a half lunch break. Our REU was unfortunately online. They told us last minute that they were not going to have us go to ECU. Normally we would have been on campus, but it definitely takes your time, and especially if you want to get further in your research than I did, because I was behind. You work those full hours and watch the lectures and talk with your mentors, and it's a lot, but it's definitely worth the experience. So by the end of it, I was just kind of trying to get final drafts of all my papers. And then I plan to kind of continue working as I got back on campus. So this is kind of my plan. And then I did an honors symposium, like presentation thing through them. And then I'm going to do another honors proposal here at some point. And then eventually present at jury's honors symposium. I think that's it, because it's not moving any further. Oh, I can't even find the mouse. That's cool.
Maybe you could just click escape. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, and then do you have my poster by chance? I sent it in PDF form.
Yeah.
That is also important. So at the very end, I'm gonna leave that. But at the very end, you normally create like a computer science poster, so something similar to what's around the walls here. Me being an architecture student, I wanted to make it look prettier than your typical computer science poster, because I thought they looked boring, but that's an art brain talking. So I put both Drury and East Carolina University onto my poster, and it's basically that slideshow condensed into however big a poster is. I don't remember how big it is. And it's being pulled up. Does anyone have questions though while it's being pulled up about like REUs, like, are they of interest, I guess? I definitely didn't know they existed, so that was cool. But it was a worth it experience, and if I could do another one again, I totally would.
So what do those lectures usually consist of?
So our lectures were the first 2-ish weeks. They were on and off. They basically gave us a crash course in computer science. So I definitely think it's a lot of like sophomore, junior level classes, juries, at least for mine. Because they were talking about things that I'd never heard of since I was considering on just minoring originally. They were classes that I wouldn't have considered. But it was just a crash course on computer science, and specifically for us, it was machine learning. Yeah.
There's that now.
Yeah. So this is my poster. Can I zoom out?
Yeah.
I can't get her all in it. Okay, this is my poster. Again, you always think the NSF and you put both, I put both schools, some people just put ECU, but yeah, I did both. And then I took a lot of information from my like literature review and papers that I had to write and basically condensed it down into poster form. So you always have an abstract at the top. I kind of gave the intro rundown about what I was looking at and what I was asking. And then for methodology, just kind of give an overview of everything that I was looking at. And then you've got to do like, or you should do more methodology on like where you get all your resources. So I have like 30 papers that I had to go through, and you can like further look into that. But then the biggest thing that was super important, since it was a machine learning, I think is machine learning and data analytics. REU is that I made that portion of my poster primarily that to go with the REU. And then I talked about the future case study that I wanted to run at Drury and kind of explained how that would work, and then ended it off with the future of the analytics that I'm going to be running. And then you always thank everyone. It's very important to give people credit. So more names will be added to my project, but yeah.
I actually have a question. So were there any other, how many other people, if there was any,
Yeah.
undergraduates?
So there were, I want to say 12 of us, and I think there were about 120 applicants. 3 of us were girls, the other 9 were guys. So I think that's just a computer science thing that you have to accept. Whenever they have like the application, they always ask like, are you in like a minority or whatever? And I think when it's chosen, they have to put X many because it looks good to the NSF. So that definitely probably helped my situation. But yeah, they're super competitive. And so when I heard that I got into it, I was like, well, this must not have been a very competitive REU. And then the first day they were like, there were 120 applicants. And I was like, wow, all right, guess not. But yeah, it's big. It's a big deal. And I think it would have been cooler to be in person for it. But I think it also would have been more stressful at the same time because there would have been a person on your back all the time being like, what are you doing? Whereas I did enjoy the online aspect because I had a little bit more freedom. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Definitely would recommend. It looks really, really, that's something like that will go onto my resume because you are working for the school for 10 weeks basically. Yeah, a lot of work. It's worth it though. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah, do you want to present from up here for the camera? I'm just gonna change the. That. Thanks. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm a senior, and this summer I worked at a company that's based down in Branson. It's called IP Sense. And so basically, what happened was back in the spring, I was looking for an internship, and I reached out to one of my friends who is from the area, and his dad happened to know of this company down in Branson because he was friends with the owner of the company. So he gave me this guy's email address, and I sent him an email, introducing myself. I attached my resume, and the next day I got a phone call from the guy. I was in Spanish class, and I got a call from this random number, and I picked it up, and I'm happy I picked it up because I got to talk with like the CEO of this company. And he was like, really impressed with you. And oh, by the way, he's on the board of directors here at Drury. So it looked really good that I happened to be at Drury. And he said, we want to have an interview with you. So a couple weeks later, I had an interview with the head programmer at the company, and we connected really well. And a week later, I got an offer of employment from them. And I think I started work like a week after school ended. And since like Branson's an hour away, they allowed me to work remotely. Like they gave me a laptop, so I was able to work here for a little bit of the summer. But I'd say the first like 2 weeks, I would drive down there every day, and it was 9 to 5. So I would get up early, I'd drive down there, and I would like work in a cubicle. And it was a pretty small company, but we were in an office. People there were really nice, and I really liked the people there. Then after like those first 2 weeks, I would like do work here in my dorm room. And even halfway through the summer, I went back home. I did my work back home, but it was really easy to like communicate with them. We would talk a lot over Skype and email. And so like the first 2 weeks of me working there was just kind of being onboarded on like how the company worked and all the systems that they use and stuff. So basically, IP Sense, it's a parking company, which at first doesn't sound all that exciting, but it was actually pretty cool. So what we do at IP Sense is if you look at like a parking garage, and if you see like the electronic sign outside that says how many spots are left in a garage, like that's us. We go in there and we put like these sensors in the ground or sensors up on the ceiling that'll detect if there's a car there. And we can manipulate that data, and we can see how long cars have been in there and like when popular hours are. And we can put that data A, outside of the building, and B, we can put it onto a website for one of the administrators to see, so they can see different statistics of people who are coming to their parking garage. And so we work with like airports and hospitals and truck stops, like all across the country. And one of the first big projects I did with them was I worked on their website, and I did a lot of research to see what it would look like if we had switched like mapping subscriptions. So what was currently on the website when I got there was ESRI, which it's kind of like Google Maps, but it's like Microsoft's version of Google Maps. So I was tasked on a project to see how much it would cost if we moved to OpenStreetMaps or to Google Maps. And then I was tasked with like what it would look like coming up with a new interface for the website with this. So that I spent maybe like 3 weeks on that. They made it look really cool, and I did a presentation to them, and they liked it. So now we're moving forward to see, if we're gonna actually switch over or not. And then throughout the rest of the summer, I worked with like the different systems at these different parking garages in order to like count cars that are coming in and out. And yeah, I'm still working with them right now, and I'll probably keep working with them until something else happens. But I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Anything else, Brian? You guys have any questions?
Are you doing less hours now that you're?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot less hours. Yeah. Because I would work like 40 hours a week, but now it's just like how many I can get. Yeah.
Were there any other projects you worked on there?
Yes, I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about because they're still kind of in like very beginning stages. I'm trying to think of what else I did. Oh, okay. So another thing I worked on was I worked a lot with the routers at the parking garages so that like if a router were to go offline for any reason, I would be able to write a Python script that would send a notification out through Workforce to the other people at the company, like send them an email saying like, hey, the router is off. I didn't write all that, but I wrote a little bit of it. Yeah, so and it was quite a bit of coding, so that was cool.
What languages did you code in?
So yeah, for this project, I coded in Python. And then for the website, I did JavaScript, but it was in like, I think it was in something different, but it was JavaScript. And then towards the end of the summer, I learned, I took a bunch of tutorials on C#, and we worked with .NET Core. I like that.
How beneficial would you say that your education at Drury and like what they're teaching through our computer science department was like beneficial towards your internship, or did you have to learn a lot?
I'd say definitely like all the stuff from app dev I used. I pretty much used all of that. And a big thing that we've done at my job is like API calls. We do a lot of that stuff. So I feel like the app dev classes have really helped me out. And yeah, like when I've been working with like the C#, like definitely the experience on like using other languages have helped a lot. So I feel like Drury's done a really good job of preparing me. So. All right, sweet.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Sam. I worked for GKN Aerospace in my hometown in Sweden. And so what a little background about them, what they do is they make parts for airplane engines and the cone-shaped thing at the bottom of spaceships. And so what I worked in the robot simulation group, whereas what they do is they offline simulate the movements of the robots that do the welding on all of these metal metal things. And so they used a program called Process Simulate, which isn't so what. Yeah, basically you click around and you make paths for the robot so that it moves and goes around, and then you have different processes that you have the robot do. So you have start welding, and then you do some tack or seam welding, and then you can stop, and yeah, just stuff like that. And so what they needed me to, or what I got to do was to add functionality into the program so that they didn't have to do as many like clicks. So if they wanted to, let's say they wanted to add, and so let's say they had like 40 different paths was like the robot was going to take, and they wanted to add a home point to each like one, they would then have to go and do that on each single one. And something I got to do was to add a function which would allow them to press a button in the program to add it to all of them at the same time. And I programmed that using XML and then because that is the only thing that was able to like that's what Siemens, the manufacturer of Process Simulate, what they allowed scripting to be made in. And I also got to do I got to change what's it called? They had this Boolean data type which they so like they have these robot programs that are online programs. So the guy standing next to a robot programs it, so it looks one way, which is very different from any code that like we write here. And so that gets sent through a different file. And then that information gets sent into Process Simulate. And so the formation of the Boolean data types was not correct to go into Process Simulate. So it wouldn't, they just wouldn't go through. So they would have to manually enter all of those values. And so using the file that it goes through and C#, we got to reformat how those data types looked, like how the syntax of them, so that it would go into Process Simulate properly and then just show up instead of having them enter them manually. And how I got this was I would just wanted to do anything that would allow me to do programming. And so my dad works at the company. So I asked him if like he knew anyone who would have room in the budget to hire me to do anything. And so he asked around a little bit, and then I got 2 email addresses. And so I reached out to them and I sent them my resume. And then, and this was all in like February. And so they got back to me and said that we could have a Skype meeting and see what, like, so we got to do that, and we got to do a security clearance, and then that was basically it. I didn't have to like answer any hard questions or anything. And yeah, so I worked. You got to basically make your own hours as long as you showed up before 8:30 and you left before 6. It was basically just make your own hours as long as you do your 40 hours in a week. And I got to work both in the office and from home. You got to choose because of COVID. Is there anything? Do you have any questions? Yeah.
So how long does this work at?
I started 1st June, and then we had 4 weeks off where they shut down the entire factory for vacations. And then I worked basically until I left to come here. All right.
All right, well, that's it for the meeting. Thanks everyone for coming, and thank you to the speakers who took time to talk to us.